Welcome to Full on a Journey and to this reading for the December solstice coming up on the 21st. The solstices are powerful turning points in the Earth's cycle, a moment when the light reaches one of its great thresholds and the energy of the year shifts in subtle but meaningful ways. For those in the Northern Hemisphere, the December solstice is the deep, still point of winter. It's the moment when the long descent into darkness pauses. It calls us inward, to the inner hearth, to reflection and intuition, getting us ready to usher in the first gentle stirrings of new beginnings beneath the surface. It's the reminder that darkness isn't an absence, it's a cocoon, a place where new beginnings quietly form. For those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, this solstice brings the radiant peak of summer. This is the height of the sun's light. It's a time of illumination and vitality, when energy moves outward with confidence and clarity. It invites celebration, full expression, and a recognition of what has come into full bloom. In this reading, we're going to draw cards for the Northern and Southern Hemisphere energies to see how they are playing out for us around the solstice. In the spirit of the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, we will ask about what is ready to be allowed to settle, to be surrendered or released, and what might be blocking our ability to let these things rest or be released. In the spirit of the summer solstice in the Southern Hemisphere, we will ask about what is at full strength, what is ready to come out into the open and be acknowledged. We will also look at what might be blocking this full embrace and the free movement of expression. We will conclude the reading with a card for the wisdom of the solstice. What message does the solstice hold for us at this turning of the light? Let's get into the reading. So I'm going to use the Wild Unknown Tarot for the winter solstice Northern Hemisphere energies. So let's get a card out that can tell us a little bit about what is ready to be settled or allowed to rest, or to be surrendered and released. All right. And we have the Seven of Pentacles. So this is really very much about having spent quite some time investing in some kind of project or relationship, or our children, our homes, something to do with our material security and foundation in this world. We've invested a lot. These are like the many phases of the moon that have passed, where we have plowed our energy and our love and our dedication into something, and now we have to wait. There's nothing more we can do. We now need to let the natural processes take over. If you have ever planted seeds and watched them grow into seedlings and start to become established plants, you'll know that there is a time when there's nothing that we can do anymore. We've provided the soil, we've provided the water, the sunlight at the right time of year. We've provided all the conditions that are conducive to the seed being able to grow. And there it goes. It germinates and it starts to grow. And the wisdom comes in knowing when the time is to take your hands off of an endeavor that you've been investing in and let it do its own work. So in the case of seedlings, time is needed for their little root systems to get established and for them to be able to start putting out new leaves that are going to capture the energy of the sun. And it's almost as if the little seedling needs some space, much like a child at a certain point in its developmental phase, to just get on with its own business. It has tens of thousands, if not millions of years of ancestral DNA knowledge embedded in it that it's now going to draw on to really establish itself and get ready to bloom into its fullness. So this is lovely for that slowing down into the deep darkness of winter that is characteristic of the Northern Hemisphere solstice. Letting whatever it is that you've been working on, and that could have been some internal journey, something that you've been focused on inside of yourself, and or could be both, something that you've been manifesting in the outside world. And it's time to let it do its own thing. And in so doing, we too can rest. All right, let's get a second card answering the question about what might be blocking us from actually letting this thing settle and releasing it to do its own thing and stepping back. So let's see what might be blocking us in allowing that process. All right. And we have the Chariot in reverse. So the Chariot, of course, is a major arcana, and it too is a number 7. And these are very, very opposite energies. The Chariot is very, very much about moving forward with full horsepower. And yet, you're being asked to wait, to take your hands off, and to step back, and to let nature take its course. So it seems that what is blocking you from being able to do that, to give this thing that you've been investing all this time and energy in some breathing space, is maybe impatience, might not be your strong point, being patient and waiting. It might just be childlike excitement of wanting to see the outcome, to get some kind of results, to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And yet here you are being asked to accept that now is not the time. And this fits so beautifully with that winter solstice energy of going inward, slowing right down. I mean, if you think about the deep of winter, a lot of trees lose all of their leaves. Plants stop producing. Many animals go into some form of hibernation or generally just hunker down for the winter. And at the solstice, we are at the deepest point of that, the short. And not everybody is a winter person. Not everybody likes to bundle up and slow down and be more inward and more indoors, perhaps. Maybe you are an extreme sports person who just wants to be out there on the slopes, having a wild time, riding your horse up the mountain and through the forests. But even the horses need to be in their stables. So, to the extent that this resonates for you, sit with it for a bit. Maybe speak to people who really do like winter and try to understand what it is about winter that they enjoy. But most importantly, for the benefit of this investment that you've put in here, get whatever advice or guidance you need. Practice a kind of humility, I think, as well. You can't control divine timing. Okay, let's see what we've got for the summer solstice energy, which of course is something coming to full strength. It is ready to come out in the open. It is already out in the open, to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be recognized. So let's see what that is about. There it is. The Fool. Oh, so beautiful, so beautiful. Of course, the Fool, being a zero, is the very beginning of a new spiritual journey, of which there can be many on the go at any one time, right? We don't know what fullness of a journey has informed coming back to the Fool, this point where we've completed a major learning and there is part of us that is ready to launch again into a new spiritual cycle. And she's just in some kind of free fall, but it's chosen. You can see by the expression on her face. She is surrendering to this, returning back, kind of reincarnating. This card gives me that energy of going back into the 3D realm. In the spirit of the Southern Hemisphere summer solstice, of course, we're looking at what's come to full strength, what's ready to come out into the open and be acknowledged. And so what I see here is exactly that, and maybe people aren't aware because the spiritual journeys that we go on, we may share those with very, very close friends and family, but they're often journeys that we walk on our own to differing degrees of consciousness. And it's quite clear that some amazing spiritual journey has come to an end, and it has brought us to a place where we have the confidence and the inspiration. In your expression, it might be something that you want to stand at the top of the mountain and shout for all the world to hear, and others among you, it might be something that is a quiet internal celebration, that only those who know you well know that you have leveled up, that you have come through something and you have triumphed in ways that might take quite a while to realize the full extent of it. So what is there to celebrate? It's freedom. There's something about maturing, if we just think about our material existences, there's something about maturing that gives us a confidence and a freedom that we don't necessarily have when we are younger, when we are unsure of ourselves and we don't know what we're actually capable of in the world. And there in the full here, in this summer solstice energy, is the idea that we really do know on a very deep level that we are free, that we are confident, that we are who we are. The full is stripped bare. They are unafraid of vulnerability. They are unafraid of showing up exactly as they are. And this bright yellow sundress just exudes that energy. It is so light and freeing to wear a garment of this kind. And its color, of course, is just the height of summer. So let's go a step further then and see what might be blocking this kind of full embrace and celebration of this newfound self that you have. So hard earned, the outcome of such a long series of experiences and leveling up to get to this point where you feel so free to take a leap of faith like this. What could be getting in the way? All right, well, okay. 3 cards. So let's have a look. So the first one we have is the moon, the 6 of Pentacles. And the 2 of Pentacles. The moon draws attention to fears of the unknown. There's a sense of not entirely trusting ourselves. There's still, even though we may have come full circle and emerged triumphant through a very large and significant life cycle, there are always these lingering niggles and fears and self-doubts. You know, they're so built into our muscle memory that even when we are in the mature time of our life, we can still find moments where these things come to the surface and we find ourselves doubting ourselves and second-guessing ourselves. And it can be quite astonishing because we know that actually we don't need these things anymore. They don't serve us. When you're young and you're inexperienced and unsure in the world, a little bit of self-doubt can be quite motivating. When you haven't leveled up in this way, then there's an inevitability about fear of the unknown. But the Fool is the absolute opposite of fear of the unknown. As I pointed out earlier, this character is just trusting and falling back into the universe, back into manifestation. So, to the extent that these kinds of fears or self-doubt or lack of clarity as well, not knowing where you're falling into or where you're going, that's the power of the Fool. And it's not for everyone, and maybe it's the first time you're really experiencing this full energy. And what's been asked and the invitation always is to just trust yourself. And trusting ourselves takes practice. The 6 of Pentacles is about give and take. It's about the balance between give and take. You might be concerned about whether you have enough to give in this new energy or venture or wherever this Fool is taking, this leap of faith that you're taking. You might be concerned that it's going to take too much out of you or take away from other important people and situations that require your presence, your energy, your love, your nurturing. Of course, being a deeply spiritual card, the Fool can be quite selfish, I guess, and perhaps foolish, and not really think about how you're going to maintain the balance of needs, of give and take. And similarly with the Two of Pentacles, which is often about maybe having too much on one's plate and having to juggle, especially juggling things that are important, like work and family, where you don't really want one to suffer because of the other. Both these cards have this feeling in the Pentacles. So one of the blockages here is some concern that you might be having that has to do with your more material world, about how you're going to keep things in balance. And you don't know what's coming because that's the nature of the Fool, and because the Moon card tells us so too. Okay, so let's get a card that is kind of the wisdom of the solstice, as a way of closing out this reading and maybe getting some advice. And there we go, gifts. What a beautiful way to end this reading. Look at this gorgeous gifts card, and underpinned by your joy guides. So that's just a reminder, despite your impatience perhaps, maybe even a slight sense of desperation of needing to get the gifts from the investment of your labor, as well as fears of the unknown and concerns about how is this all going to work in the material world. It's all very well up in our imaginations and in our deep, quiet sides of ourselves. But what happens when we fall back into the world and have to bring that full energy into the Pentacles? How do we balance these things? And the reminder is simple, that even in the waiting, even in the not knowing, there are always gifts. We may not see them right now, immediately, but we can trust that if we just trust, if we just trust in both these processes, the gifts will eventually show themselves. And with that, I wish you a very beautiful solstice period, wherever you are in the world and wherever you are in your spiritual journey and in your material life. Blessings, patience, a sense of adventure. Don't be afraid. Don't hold back. Be who you are. And trust that the gifts of these experiences will show themselves in good time. Much love. Until next time.